Mr. President, I rise today like I've risen so many times here, basically for all of us to understand how we have the greatest country on earth, the superpower of the world. If you want to know the backbone of the United States of America, look up in the stands. These are the United Mine Workers of America that made us the country we are today. They gave us the life we have and the freedom. And for people not to understand that makes no sense to me at all. And all I'm asking for is for my colleagues to understand. The miners' protection simply is this: keep your promise. The promise that we have made, basically to all the miners who have given their lives, to the given everything they've had, their blood, sweat, and tears, basically for us to have this energy for this great country of ours. And now all they're asking for, can't we at least keep our health care? Can't we at least keep our pensions? We've worked for that. We negotiated for that. Every contract they ever negotiated basically was a give and take proposition so that they would be able to continue to have this after they retired. For the widows they leave behind, basically, and most of them have, a lot of our colleagues and comrades have passed away, that basically their families are still dependent on this health care. But for the life of me, we've been fighting this. April 28th, we're going to lose it again. April 28th, and I know the way things work around here. Someone will come down and says, well, we negotiated a little extension. I want to make sure everyone is on notice. We will use every vehicle we can, every absolutely pathway that we can to make sure we do not leave here. We will not leave here until we have our miners protected. Our miners will be protected with their health care and their pensions. We have all 48 Democrats united. We have many colleagues on the Republican side that have joined us and are willing to join us. All we're asking for is that vote. And I want to make it very clear, we will do anything and everything that we must. We've been very patient. But I am not going to have another notice sent out to our retired miners, to their families, to their widows, saying, well, we've given you another 90 days or 120-day extension. That's not going to happen this time. That's my commitment to them and their families. That's my commitment, basically, to the people who depended on them. And really, each and every one of us in the great country of ours should say thank you for the job that they've done. We fight this, and we continue to fight this onslaught, and I can't figure out why. In October, 16,300 of our nation's coal miners and their families were told. They were told that they would lose their health care by December 31st. Then we extended. Can you imagine an elderly person receiving a notice in basically the 1st of February, end of January, that guess what, in 90 days you're going to lose it again because we gave them an extension until April of this year? I can't understand it at all. I don't know how anybody can be that inhumane. So the co-sponsors have been working with us. We've held firm. The White House knows that we're serious about this. The President himself has given me his verbal support. I need him now to either tweet or call Mitch McConnell, Senator Mitch McConnell, our majority leader, and tell him it's time to act. It's time for Mr. McConnell, my friend, Senator from Kentucky, my neighboring state, to act. That's all we're saying. So, Mr. President, if you're listening to me, if you're watching, please tweet out, Mitch, help us. We need you. Thank you, Mr. President.
I ask unanimous consent for 3 minutes, 1 minute for Senator Donnelly, 1 for Senator Casey and me. I thank Senator Bozeman to talk just for 3 minutes on the mine workers and the health care law.
Is there objection? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today on the 7th anniversary of the tragedy of the Upper Big Branch mine in West Virginia, where 29 mine workers were killed. There's no better day to ask this Senate to do the right thing on extending health care for mine workers permanently. We've seen far too many times where mine workers in Ohio and West Virginia and Kentucky and all over this country get a letter in the mail, the retired mine workers or their widows getting a letter in the mail saying their health care is about to be canceled. And we then kick the can down the road for 2 or 3 or 4 months at a time. That's unacceptable. It's up to this Senate this month to make sure that we fix this once and for all so that mine workers who did so much for their communities and their families and their country can be assured that they have health care for the rest of their lives, as President Truman promised.
Mr. President, I just want to add to the remarks of Senator Brown. We had a process, the presiding officer was part of this as well, in the Finance Committee, getting the Miners Protection Act through the Finance Committee 18-8, should have been voted on by the end of the year, so these miners could have certainty with regard to health care and pensions, and our government could keep our promise to those miners. Our government has not kept its promise to coal miners, and some of them are here today in Washington. It's about time our government kept our promise. They kept their promise to their company, to their country, and every promise that they've been asked to keep. It's time that we did our job here in the Senate. Get this legislation passed in the month of April.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the third time in the last year, I stand on the Senate floor in support of thousands of retired coal miners and their families across Indiana and the United States. If Congress doesn't act, many of the miners will lose their health benefits at the end of this month. There are a lot of important issues facing us here, but few have such high stakes. Retirees are already receiving letters telling them that their medical insurance will soon run out. This is a promise that was made and a promise we have to keep. We have less than 30 days. Let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing and enact a permanent solution. I strongly urge my colleagues to take action immediately and ensure that our retired miners receive the health benefits that were promised to them by the United States government. I yield back, Mr. President.